Let's see if that works. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Oh yeah, seems it might work. As soon as I start streaming, there's a party going on across the road. Might go over there. Where are we? Saturday beers and tunes. Well, it's not Saturday, that's for sure. Well. I can change it. Twitch. I don't need to change this. Oh, I can hear myself. That's not. What day is it? Tuesday. Oh, I can hear myself. That's not. What day is it? Tuesday. That is going to cause trouble. All right, that's better. I can't type on this little keyboard. All right, hang on. Let me let's test this chat and this one over here. If I can find it, which I can't. G'day, watchers and lurkers. Can't find the link to my own. Oh, there it is. The stream. It's okay. Just give me a second. Sounds like someone's playing cricket. Be pissed. And people are pissed over in the park playing cricket by the sound of it. I still can't find it. Where's my channel? View your channel. Live. Oh, there we go. That should be it. View your channel. Got it. Aha, g'day Speakeasy. Now I can see the chat. I think. Of course it's not working in Restream. That's all right. I can just move it over. I can see it there. Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's pretty quiet. I was going to brew today, and then it just got a bit late. So I started messing around with the fermenter. You can probably see there, just there, but trying to get it to seal, but it is impossible. It's been sitting there in the background now in most streams you may have seen here, but it's useless. How you going, Shane? Yes, get into it. You need to. I am drinking a beer, but it's not carbed. I thought it'd be carb by now, but it's not. It's like it got a little bit of fizz to it, but it's you had to drop it off pretty quick. It's not really carb. This is that extract hazy IPA thing, which is the chem lights there, with the oat extract, and it's turned out quite nice. It'll be a bit bitter for people that think hazy IPA shouldn't be bitter. Oh no, the brew built is sealed and next to me. The brew build is here, and that one's sealed. It's the old Nano. G'day, Finru. Good to see you, mate. I was trying to get that old cheeky peak thing to seal, and it's impossible. It's all about the yeast, as in the hazy. It helps. There's a whole lot of things that help. It's the hops. You don't want the yeast in the leftover beer. That's a common misconception, that the haze is the yeast in a hazy beer, because it isn't really. So there's a combination of things happen between a few different ingredients, but you don't want the yeast. Like, it's not the yeast. It's not like a Cooper's where you roll around a bottle to make it hazy. It's not that. Because you really, really don't want yeast in your. You want to get as much yeast out of your beer as you can. Your beer will last longer and pour better, and not lose the head. And yeast is. I know it sounds funny, and some people go, the only time yeast is good in a beer is for bottle conditioning. Otherwise, you don't want it there. Hop Stomper. Cool. It is a great beer. I've used Nova Lager yeast many, many, many times. I've been brewing with that for, I don't know, it seems like a year now. I don't know if it has been that long. But I've used it tons of times, Nova Lager yeast. Black Friday to all of it. Well, not even hop matter. You don't want hop matter in it either. You want all that out of your beer, right? You want that out of your beer. Hazy beers, like NIPAs and that, I cold crash longer than any others. Well, no, it's true. I was going to say lagers, but lagers, that's the lagering process. That's sort of different. I'm going to have to maybe shut the door soon. I know we're expecting a storm, and it's just started a little bit earlier, and the rain's coming in on everything. That's all right. Just shut the door. It's the biotransformation. I don't want to get too technical at this time on Tuesday afternoon, but biotransformation is such a broad term, and that can mean so many things. But it's sort of become the common term for what happens in beer and the haziness and the reaction between the yeast and the hops and things like that. But that's, yeah. It's good to have a bit of some proteins in the beer, so that's why people use a lot of flaked ingredients. And, it's a combination of, it's even been proved you don't have to dry hop early. This wasn't dry hopped early. And at all, this was, earlier than you'd dry hop a normal beer, but it was dry hopped when the gravity was right down to 1024 or something like that. And I went a bit early because I was using the oat extract. I was expecting it to finish a bit higher, but it didn't. So what I've figured out, which will be in the video coming up in the next week or so, I would have done the video today, but the beer's not quite carved. The oat extract seems to have about the same fermentability as light dry malt, possibly a touch more, but we're talking a sparrow's fart. So, I expected that it might finish high, but it didn't. So that's why I dry hopped a little bit early. Plus, I wanted some haze, so I dry hopped a little bit early. But I fermented out to 10. I might get some hail in a minute. I might just shut that door a second, a little bit. It's going to come down, I reckon. The rain, you can probably hear it. Typical, as soon as I turn on. All right, hang on. I'm in the dark. I need to move the lights around. No, I've never had an off flavour using PVPP. No, not once. If you've ever seen products like Clarity Firm and things like that, not Clarity Firm, that might be wrong. Polyclass, what I was looking for. That all contains PVPP. No, there's something wrong if you're getting an off flavour from PVPP. That shouldn't happen at all. The simple fact is that the PVP it shouldn't even be in the beer in the end. It should all settle out. So you shouldn't be tasting it. If you're getting an off flavour from that, I don't know how, or it's something else. Good, Victor. Sorry, I did see you say good day, but then everything's happening. How much if I want to home brew? Oh, look, it depends how you want to do it. If you're talking all grain, you can still get away with it for pretty cheap. So they just stopped. Just like that. Oops, I shouldn't click on the microphone. Well, that's weird. Look, I don't know. Okay, look, I'll say a couple of hundred. It depends how you want to do it. That's doing it on your stove and stuff, right? If you want to, because you're going to have to buy a fermenter. And look, I'd advise any beginner, don't be grabbing Bunnings containers and things. They're rubbish. I mean, you can use them, but grab a fermenter. It doesn't have to be a pressure fermenter or anything. I've got one up there, but I can't reach it right now. Any sort of fermenter. But what do you mean legit? You can still do like all grain in a pot on the stove, in a $30 kitchen pot on the stove with a bag in it, and that's legit beer. So it just depends what you mean by legit. You can easily do. I'm going to do a few this summer. A few more, for beginner stove top type things. Here comes the rain again. But there is people that say that they keep spending, and there's no need to keep spending. G'day, Roger. There's no need. And look, I'm lucky I get stuff, some, supplied by people for me to test. But in the end, that really any of that stuff gets continually used. I go back to doing what I do. With that, well, I like to use the Brewzillas now. I just find them easier than stovetop. You're not messing around with a bag. And they're quite cheap. You can pick one up for $300 or something, can't you? You don't need a Gen 4, that's for sure. You could use a Gen 3. Gen 3 is probably easier for beginners if they're still around or second-hand. Or you could just get an urn. But you can still do great extract, but you just got to know what you're doing and take a little bit of care. This beer here, I would bet my nuts, and they're quite big nuts, the 2.5 of them, that none of you would be able to tell this was extract. I'm dead serious. Dead serious. If someone picked it, it'd be by fluke. G'day to some bystander. Oh, that's not going on. The chat isn't going on to the Twitch stream. Sorry about that. It's not oat cream. It's a hazy, but yeah. I'm still using a Cooper's fermenter I got when I was 21, 26 years ago. Though I got myself a Guten 40 or some machine of brewery. That was 440 though. Oh no, I've sold most of the stainless stuff, mate. I have. I'm hanging to get rid of this. With the cheeky peak thing. That's got to go. It's just taken up too much space. I'd only just cleared out my garage, and then that came, and I really had my hopes up for it, but I'm just not happy. So And that's what I was doing today, trying to fix that fermenter so I can, you know, put it back in the package and get rid of it, but I can't. It just won't seal. So I was just about to look up. I thought, oh, maybe I can use the same locking ring from, you know, the, what are they called? Those things, the Brew built on that, but they're different sizes. So I can't even do that. So I'll have to see. I don't know. That's either, I've got a choice. I can either try and get one of the locking rings for it and see if that'll fix it, which is a risk, you know, I'll be out of pocket, or just sell it as a normal fermenter, you know, that can't be pressurized. But then is anyone going to want to buy a conical that can't be pressurized? Although, you know, a lot of the early ones couldn't be. Even the ones now, they can't be pressurized that much. It's one of those funny things. I'm getting sort of sidetracked here, but people buy the Fermzillas and they want to fucking ferment under, excuse my language, ferment under high pressure, and they want to do this under high pressure and transfer under high pressure. When you buy these fancy things, you spend, you know, you can spend thousands on them. You can't go over 15 psi anyway. That's all they're rated to. So I always get asked, why do you ferment under so low pressure? Because you don't need to. You don't, unless you're trying to do silly things. Well, I won't say silly things, but, you know, try and use a yeast that's supposed to be brewed at 20 and you're trying to brew it at 40, so you want to brew it under high pressure to try and make it taste good. You know, you're pushing shit uphill, let's be honest. You can do it, but it's not as easy as just go, oh, that'll work, because it just doesn't work like that. Yeah, the most important thing for beginners is a fermenting fridge. We just make the work, the yeast makes the beer, and if you don't look after the yeast and you don't look after your ferment, that's the most important part. And it's the same with extract. I know people want to brew an extract and just put it out in the garage and hope for the best, and you can do it, and you can still get pissed, and you can, you know, easy, and you might get used to it, and you might drink it for years like I did. People forget that I was trained how to brew all grain, but I kept on extract because I couldn't be bothered, didn't have the time, didn't have the money. And I brewed extract at home for, I don't know, probably from 1987 or 88 I started, all the way up until 2010 or something, whatever that is, was extract. I mean, I did do the odd all grain, but kind of like what Craig Tube does, you know, I had the know-how and I had the equipment, but it was just, sometimes you don't have the time or money or place. But, you know, it's true, it's hard to go back to extract, but it depends what kind of beers you're trying to brew, and you've got to use fresh ingredients. Fresh ingredients and extract is as important or more important than fresh ingredient. No, it's not. They're both the same. You need to use fresh ingredients. As soon as you see people go, oh, just use that 5-year-old tin of extract, then you go, man, if you're going to spend all the time, 2 weeks fermenting or whatever it is, and then bottling, you know, hours washing bottles, capping, filling, spending all that money, and you're happy to use 5-year-old ingredients, you know, you wouldn't go and make a cup of coffee with off milk. So, look, you can still make a drinkable beer with old ingredients, but if you're going to, the way I look at it, if you're going to put that time and effort into it, then just take that little, if you have to spend an extra, I just realised how much they've gone up to $20 a can nearly, which is ridiculous. But anyway, the extracts, just get fresh ingredients. Fresh ingredients. If it's going to cost you $5 more a batch, but you know, or you can save $5 for a batch for having a whole heap of ingredients sitting around in your garage for a year. By the time you get to that end of the year, that beer's not going to be as good as the beer you started at the beginning of the year. And if that's you, then that's okay. I mean, I'm not judging. I'm just, when people ask for advice, I have to tell the truth. As I said, you can still brew with anything and get pissed. And what I did and wanted to do for a long time, and probably still would do if I had to. But if you want the best, you get fresh. How long did it take you to get decent at a brew? Years, man. But I started before there was any info around. I started, as I said, in about 1987, 1988, and there was no information. You know, there's no internet, no, you know, nothing. Oh, there was actually, well, not internet. There was bulletin boards, but we weren't talking about homebrew on them. You know, that all I had was books that were 20 years old. I was buying from the local bookshop for $1, and that had no. I could show you. I've still got the books where it just says malt and hops. It doesn't even give you the type of hops or the type of malt, all the type of yeast. You know, it was just get some hops, which we couldn't get anywhere in Australia at a shop at that stage, and. Yeah, it was crap. So my beer was crap for a while. And all you knew how to brew was what it said on the tin. And the Cooper's tins were so bad. It was us hassling Coopers about the crap information on their tin probably 10, 15, maybe 10 years ago. We were hassling for years to change the information because it was so bad. They were telling people to ferment at 26 degrees. And, you know, I remember doing my brews, and it was a tin. It's getting noisy out here. Sorry about that. A tin of extract, a kilo of sugar, and fermented at 26 degrees. I'd have it on top of the water heater, and often a heater, you know, facing the fermenter to keep it at 26 degrees. And that's just awful. That's what makes your beer taste terrible. And you'd wonder why. You'd get to the end and go, oh, that's nice. It wasn't nice. It was horrid. So a fermenting fridge is really helpful. Doesn't matter where you live. Down cold, you need it to keep your beer warm, but it helps to keep a ferment warm. You don't need it so much down south if you're cold all the time, but in summer or anywhere where it's warm all the time, yeah, a fermenting fridge. An old fridge doesn't have to be a flash one. That's really important. Hey, well, Tommy Bastard, that's what we used to do. That was the way it was. It wasn't even Woolies extract then. We were getting it from Jules. I don't know if you know what Jules is. That was wasn't black and gold. It was no name. They used to say call it black and white, but no name. Yeah, I've got old hops that I won't use unless you know the sour brewers and the is it lambics or something. One of those can use old hops, but I don't mind using older hops for bittering, but not for dry hopping. If you wonder why. You know, I say a lot of people, oh, why doesn't my beer, you know, taste like the breweries? Breweries do not use old hops, man. You go to a craft brewery, they are not dry hopping with 2-year-old hops. They're not. They'll have the freshest and the best. And that's why when you go to, you know, your local craft brewery, it should be bursting with hop flavour. And it's because they're fresh. You can test them, of course, but yeah. You know, I got to about 2 years in the fridge. I try not to go over that. I'd rather pick a different variation of hop than use, you know, as I said, bittering, even late flavour additions aren't too bad with older hops, but not aroma hops. Do you know when fermentation is complete in this pressure fermenter? Is it only through FG or is there... it has to be FG in these silver ones when you know these uni tanks here because you can't see it. So you can have like, of course, your wireless floating hydrometers inside that give you a good indication, but ultimately you end up taking a reading at the end. Although you know, mostly. I do rely on the inside the floating hydrometers, but my latest video where I brewed this beer, I did it all manually. Yeah, I used a fancy hydrometer, but I still I took way too many readings. I took one every day, which was silly, but it was just for the video, just to show what was going on for the video. But, you know, if I didn't have to do that, I'd probably test it on about day 3 to see if it was nearly ready for dry hopping and where it was at. That's another thing. That a lot of beginners use way too little yeast, and it gets expensive, but the more yeast, the better. But like a lot of people say 2 weeks, 2 weeks. I rarely ever leave a beer in a fermenter for 2 weeks. If it needs it, it stays there. If it doesn't need it, it's shipped out straight away. But the only beers you really got to watch, and I wish the YouTube chat was going on the screen, but for some reason it isn't. I just like hoppy, the real hoppy beers. If you're really wanting that big hop burst, they're the ones you really got to watch timing with. If you're happy, if you're just brewing, a normal lager or a normal ale or an English ale or most other beers that aren't extremely hoppy, then you can leave it a bit longer in the fermenter. It doesn't matter so much. And it depends too. If you're brewing in a fridge and you can, what we call cold crashing, which is like when it's finished fermenting, you drop it down to like 1 degree and it helps all the yeast fall out and all that sort of stuff. Once it's cold, you can even leave the hops in and everything in there and let it sit there a week. It's not going to matter much. It's only when the beer's warm at fermenting temps that you can't leave it sitting around with hops in it. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money, that's all. I'm just trying to fix the chat up so people can see it, but I'm not sure. Things have changed on this website, of course. And I can't find where it is. I don't have to use this when I stream from my bedroom, but for some reason, every time I come out here, something's changed. Yeah, I can't find where it is. I should be able to go bang and turn on the connect with that. Hang on for just a second. Oh, there we go. It should be on. It says offline. Edit settings. Talking G40 live. Jesus, that's old. Sorry, I can't see the chat right now. Just give me a sec. Still don't think that's going to... no, it's still not going to work. It's painful. Don't know why it does that. Hang on just 1 second. I'll remove it and I'll try and add it again. Oh, there we go. No, still not going to work. Add channel, YouTube. Event? Have we got an event? No, just channel. Connect YouTube. Oh, now it's asking me for passwords. Sorry about this. Hang on. Well, I'm just trying to keep the chat on the screen because this will be recording and it'll be handy to see the chat even though I've just missed half the questions. Multi-streaming. It still says I'm offline. Oh, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Oh, but I've lost the chat. Hang on, where's the chat? There we go. What's a mistake most people do? The biggest mistake probably comes a little bit later where they don't clean out the taps of their fermenters properly. They don't know how to, or their hoses, and they'll get an infection from that. That's probably the biggest beginner mistake. And oxygen. You really got to be careful with oxygen. Shaking your bottles with sugar in them after you bottle them. Listening to people that say that yeast will eat oxygen out in the bottle because it just won't. Won't before it's already done its damage anyway. Yeah. The bottling part you've got to be careful with, and bulk priming hoppy beers. You shouldn't bulk prime hoppy beers, but that's probably not real beginner. The beginner is probably the ferment temperature. Get the ferment temperature right, but I probably can't talk about that enough. I've found stuffing up a brew to be difficult at times, actually. Ooh. And skimping on yeast and reusing yeast, holding your yeast in your fridge for weeks on end is a really easy way to stuff it up. You know, if you're doing extract and you're only, you know, and you've got plenty of beers in stock, you can take that risk. But when you're brewing, when you get sort of a little bit more serious in all grain and you're spending, you know, 5-6 hours brewing and a lot of money on ingredients, the last thing you want to be doing is throwing an old yeast you've stored in the fridge, because it's the die-off of yeast in the fridge. In 2 weeks, over more than half of that yeast is dead and mutated and just horrible. And I know a lot of people will do it and do it successfully for years. But you take that risk every time. Every time you do that, you take a little bit of a risk. You can save your yeast, yes. You can do it smart ways, but just sticking it in the fridge and hoping it's going to be all right in you know 3 or 4 weeks is not good. Does it make any difference in beer quality by removing yeast before dry hopping? Look, yes, technically yes. It's good to get rid of the yeast, yes. Can you still make awesome beers with the yeast still in there with dry hopping? Yes, you can. You can do both, right? And especially for home brewers, it's nearly better to be dry hopping while some of the yeast is still active. But it is good to get rid of the bulk of it, but you don't need to. It's another thing I go on about probably way too much, but yeah, if you can dry hop, especially at home brew, especially if you're not under pressure and you're not using things like, you know, all these fancy things, dry hop just before the ferments finish. It'll help so much with because the yeast is still moving around, it'll break up the hops and move them around. Because the yeast is still moving around and producing CO2, it'll push out any oxygen that's got in by itself. You don't have to purge, you don't have to do any of that. It just helps a lot. And it's handy. Well, I'll get sidetracked here, but then you bump up the temperature at the same time. So you try and get the ferment finished as quick as you can once the hops are in there. And there's another thing that's scared home brewers a lot in the last couple of years, and it's hop creep. And this needs to be another video in itself, but the funny thing is, there's all these people, and I was watching this guy that's supposed to be a pro brewer, and he owns his own brewery. Just because people own their breweries doesn't mean they're a pro brewer. Well, a master brewer or whatever, but it doesn't mean they're always the smartest, bloke. And there's a guy on there, and he's going, I always, drop my fermenter to 15 degrees before I dry hop to prevent hop creep. Because that's what I've read, that's what I've heard. I've read the study. I've read that study too. But the trouble when you do that, so you have to wait till ferment's finished, for one, because you're dropping the temperature to 15 degrees. So you're going to store your yeast when you do that. So you've got to wait till the ferment's totally finished. So then you're bringing in all those other dangers of oxidation in a home brew level. And just, you're fermenting it after it's completely finished, which is great if you've got the right tools to do it. But the problem is there with the hop creep. What happens is it comes from the hops. It can be enzymes. You can hear all these sorts of different stories, depending which study you read. Stuff comes off the hops. We'll make it simple. And it gets into the beer, and it makes it ferment a little bit more. So people that don't know what hop creep is, you can bottle a beer that's finished fermenting, and then because of something that's in the hops, it'll continue fermenting a little bit more than you wanted to in the bottle. So when you open it, it can be gushes, or, you know, the bottles can explode and things like that. But the one flaw in the 15-degree method, the idea of dry hopping at 15 degree or below is to stop that activity of that the enzymes or whatever is on those hops that makes it re-ferment, to stop that happening. The trouble is, all that stuff still comes off the hops and is still in your beer. So unless you do something to that beer, like pasteurize it, or which would probably stop hop creep anyway once it was packaged, or you keep it colder than 50, you know, fridge temps for the whole life of that beer. When that beer warms up again, all those enzymes and things off the hops, they're still in the beer. So when your beer warms up, say you've bottled it and you put it on the shelf and it's warm, all that kicks off and it doesn't kill it. It's like yeast. If there's still yeast in your beer and your beer's not fermenting, and, you know, you can make it cold in the fridge and we'll say it stops fermenting. Technically, it might still continue at very slow speeds. But so even if you've dry hopped at 15 degrees and then you package your beer, you go, oh, right, I've stopped the hop creep. You haven't, because unless you keep that beer crystal like cold, the hop creep's going to happen as soon as you put that beer on the shelf, or you send it out to someone to sell and they put it on a warm shelf somewhere. That's going to start again. So the whole thing of dry hopping at lower temps to prevent hop creep, while it may work technically for that stage, you can't just go and put your beer on the shelf. You've got to keep it cold the whole time. I don't worry about hop creep because I keg. I don't bottle. So, and that's what I was getting to. When you dry hop before the ferment's finished and everything's still warm, if anything's in that hop, that's when it's going to happen then. It's going to do that re-ferment then, or ferment a little bit further out than you expected. So that's another benefit of dry hopping while the wort's still warm. It's actually better to prevent hop creep. The reason hop creep became an issue mostly was because of NIPAs and things like that, right? Where they're throwing, you know, I won't say way too many because I love hops, a shit ton of hops. And they're trying to keep it in there, and they're trying to keep the body in the beer. You know, they still want that beer to be, you know, not finish low. So the idea of dry hopping at 15 degrees then is great, because you're not going to get that extra ferment that you would from dry hopping warm or from your beer sitting on the shelf. The trouble is you can't let that beer warm up again because it'll continue. So that doesn't work for home brewers that are bottling. That doesn't work for breweries that need to put it in a can or put it in a bottle and send it out to a shop, unless they use cold shipping and they can rely on the shop to put it in the fridge straight away. You know, and those things are out of your hands when your beer leaves the brewery. So that's a benefit of dry hopping before the ferment's finished and while it's still warm. Anyway, I don't know, I got a bit sidetracked there probably, but it's just a benefit of dry hopping warm. And besides all that, I found dry hopping cold not to be the same. I got way less aroma out of my beers than dry hopping warm. And that says something, because there's a little bit of active ferment when I dry hop most of the time. So you lose a little bit blows off, but I still got more out of my beers doing it that way than chilling first and then dry hopping. Because in breweries they can dry hop and, you know, recirculate a little bit, or they've got way better systems set up where they can bubble, you know, they can distribute the hops around a little bit if they all sink to the bottom. But then you got to watch how much CO2 you bubble through a beer, because that'll strip flavours as well. So anyway, I've got to stop there. I'll keep going on for hours. I got to start reading. If the initial ferment temp is too high, any way to save the brew? Not really. The whole important bit happens early. It's that first 3 or 4 days. After that, you can take your beer out of the fridge. I mean, you don't want it heated up to 40 degrees, but you know, it's that first active ferment. It's the active ferment, that first couple of, well, if your yeast is healthy, it should be that first 3 or 4 days. After that, it's, as long as you don't want it dropping temp either, because your yeast might stop, but it's that initial temp. And there's not much you can do when you get that off flavour from yeast. You can leave it on the yeast. It depends on the yeast, man. There's so many different yeasts, but you can leave it on the yeast a bit longer. Sometimes the yeast will clean it up. I hate using that term because that gets bandied around so much these days and for other things, but sometimes, but it's not very often. Like if you've stuffed that initial ferment from a too hot brew, and look, some yeasts will cope with that better than others. The only way to find out is to taste it. See how it is. If you can put up with it, sometimes it's just a smell, sometimes it's a smell and a taste, how strong it is, but it's up to you. But it's hard to pull that back. You know, the yeast have done what they've done in the beer, and it's hard to, if it's just aroma, you can bubble CO2 through it to strip that aroma, but you're also stripping everything else, the hop aroma, but you can, if it's just, say, everyday lager, you're not relying on hops, go ahead, bubble CO2 through it, and you might, if it's just aromas, because it's not going to strip many flavours. You've just got it. The start of the ferment is really important. I want to make one outlay and play for like how long? Well, it depends on your taste, man. Like, you could, as I said, there's people here like me. It's like, no, it didn't work out at the time. Was it 15 or 20 years I fermented with extracts? And like these days, the extracts things are much better. You know, you can get fresher ingredients and fresh hops, and you can do all that. There's people that don't stop paying. But as I said, that's why I nearly got to it before. I don't keep paying and paying. I know I get stuff to try, but most of the time it comes in the door, hangs around for a little while, and then it's gone. I keep my Brewzillas. I've sold my Grainfathers, my grandfather, and you know, a lot of more expensive equipment because it's just not needed and doesn't make the brew day easier. I loved Grainfathers, except I didn't like buying a Grainfather when you've already got stuff in your brewery. Is like owning PCs and then buying one piece of Apple equipment, and you go, yeah, it's nice, but trying to get it to hook up with everything else is a pain in the ass. And that's what I found with the Brewfathers. Everything was a different size. The chiller was a different size. The hoses were a different size. You couldn't just go, oh, shit, I'm looking for a part and plug it in. You'd have to build an adapter or have an adapter ready here. Because the Grainfathers are some nice equipment, really nice. The G40s are nice, and the G70s are nice. I wouldn't get a G30 anymore. If you're going to buy a G30, you may as well buy a Brewzilla. You'll get way more value for money. But the G40s aren't nice, except that thing. If you've already got all half-inch fittings in your brewery because everything uses half-inch, and then you buy a G40 and go, shit, everything's using this weird 9mm size connector, or that's when it becomes a pain, and that's why I got rid of it. I've used Kveik many times, and I won't use it again unless it's there's nothing else. I haven't got any other choice. More hops in the king, I think. No worries, Innocent. Sorry, Innocent, that people can see your chat, but that you can't see theirs. Look, the best way to get a decent homebrew kit is You can ask or send me a message after, you know, after this, and I'll get back to you. Is the beginner home? I mean, you can get a beginner pressure kit, but you'll end up wanting to get CO2 and gas and stuff then, and you can. I don't want to move the camera around. The old style plastic fermenters, the round white ones, are great. They're fucking great. What's your preferred yeast match for a single brew using Ringwood hops for an Aussie beer clone? Oh, what, if you're talking like VB or something like that? These days, I'd probably use an overlager. Oh, Sir Kerbin. You're Sir Kerbin from the other one, from next week. I'd probably use an overlager. You don't have to worry about sulfur flavors. It's pretty easy going with temperatures. You're still better off going a little bit cool, fermenting like starting at like 16 or so, and then it can get up to like 20 by the end of the ferment. But you're not going to get off smells and flavors that you would from lager yeasts. It's way better than 3470 in that respect. So I'd go an overlager. If you wanted to be, I don't know, your local brewery is probably using 3470 or something for that if you want to spend that little bit extra time and stuff. But I find an overlager a better choice, way better choice these days. Yeah, Kveik is great for people that can't control the ferment temperatures. And there's some people that are really sensitive to the taste, like I am. I can pick it a mile away, and some people obviously can't. And that's the same with all yeast. Some people reckon USA5 is horrible, but then they probably don't realise that just about every beer they've drank, craft beer they've drank in that, well, at least 5 years ago, for the 10 years before that, or 15 years or 20 years before that was all USA5. But you know, some people it's just, you see, yeah, more sensitive to some flavours than other people are. No worries. Oh, thanks, Greg. I think I saw your comment before, but I think I forgot to say g'day. I haven't been mentioning many names. G'day, Victor. From memory, I used... Oh, you're talking about Kveik still. I've used all sorts of Kveik. I was using it before the commercial varieties were available. There were people from Europe sent me some. Plus, I'd got some off eBay. Plus, I'd got some. There's still... I did a video long ago about Voss versus... Oh, I can't even remember the name. Hornindal or something like that. Then I didn't like the Hornindal at all. It tastes like dead ants to me. And that jar with the yeast in it is actually still sitting in that corner. We can't see it now, the light's off. But there's a mason jar with crystal clear beer in it there. That's Hornindal. If anyone wants some Hornindal yeast, that's... Oh, sorry about the noise in here from the rain. I'll never use it again. So I used Hornindal probably 3 times or 4 times. I just couldn't stand it. Any hop combinations you enjoy at the moment for a sessionable penny or West Coast IPA? Oh, there's so many at the moment. I'm still a stickler for the, Simcoe, Mosaic, Citra. You can't beat it. You really can't beat it. Lately, I've been messing around with Tallis and Nelson together, but more in an IPL, but, it'll still work in an IPA or IPA. You got to go a little bit more gentler because they're both strong hops. So that's a different one, Tallis and Nelson. I didn't think they'd work together, but they did. The one I'm drinking here is Idaho 7 and Nectaron, and I wasn't a huge fan of Nectaron, but you got to keep it, don't put too much in the boil, keep it out of the boil. It's all right in the hot whirlpool, but You don't want to be boiling it for too long. It can get a real, to me, it gets a real, like a off, like it's a mandarin peel, but you know when you've left a mandarin rot in the fruit bowl, that's what I get from it. It's like a off mouldy mandarin peel rather than a nice fresh one. But in this, it mixes really well with the Idaho 7, so I'd like to try this. I went a bit heavy-handed in this, but that's me going heavy-handed. But again, that was a great mix. Idaho 7 and the Nectaron, a great mix. G'day, Hard Yards. That's Mike. He's at work tonight. Are you at work at the brewery or no? Oh, yeah, no, you know, you'd be working at your other job, I guess. Not at the brewery at this time. That's Mike. Hard Yards is Mike from, oh, he's Forgotten 43. He's in the chat. Oh, he's on the fork, on the forklift. Beep, 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 beep. Sorry. I should put me, hang on. There you go, Mike. It's probably going to stuff the camera up. Beep, 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 beep. That make you feel at home? I think of doing something with Nectaron probably and would have used it in the boil. Yeah, no, try and keep it out of the boil. You know, maybe the smallest amount at the end, but yeah, I wouldn't go heavy in the boil. Not. Staz, how you going? I know it's a bit of lag, but I'm so behind in the comments. Safety first. How you going, Staz? We've got all the famous people here now. Mike and Staz, Finru. Staz has got a channel. I'm not sure if he does much anymore. I never ever got, for some reason, from Staz's channel, but I used to go and look. Finru's got a channel. Victor, did you used to have a channel? I can't remember. I don't know if you had a channel too. Can you still hear that rain? Far out. As soon as I put the camera on, I knew it was probably going to rain this afternoon, but as soon as I put the camera on, bang, the rain came down. Nah. Although Victor did a brewing thing, and I can, believe it or not, Victor, I can see the God, I can't remember what it's called now. The 17 Brew Crew IPA bottle is still on my, I washed it out and it's on my beer tree over there. I can't get to the beer tree, but I can see the bottle. I'd turn the camera around too, but it's dark over there because I had to shut the door. Oh, Vic sent me an IPA stubby probably many years ago now. And I washed it out and went, oh, it's a cool label. I'll leave that and maybe I'll fill it up and send it back to him. It's still sitting over there. Oh, you're inside the chiller or not? Jesus. Guess what you need to be? 1, you're in New Zealand. 2, you're in a chiller. Do the chillers have doors in New Zealand or they just leave it open? Yeah, and Staz is right. Even I think it's an Australian and New Zealand hop thing. You've got to be really careful in the boil. You can add them, but you've got to be gentle and test to see if you're going to like it first. Galaxy, Eclipse, Nectaron, even Nelson, because they can be so strong. So it's good just to go easy the first time you try it, at least. But there's a few that, yeah, I just leave for either dry hopping or whirlpools. Everyone knows I mostly hot whirlpool. I very rarely cold whirlpool, but that's just for time and money saving and water saving and everything else. Hop saving. All right, I haven't shut up for hours. How long have we going? I thought, oh, no, everyone will be busy. I meant to get on earlier because it's a public holiday here in Victoria. So I went, oh, I'll do a brew day today. And I'll do a live brew day and there'll be people off work and, you know, not everyone's going to be sitting at home watching the race. Oh, no, I haven't even been on an hour yet. It was on longer than that. It's been talking for an hour. Suggestions about cooling the water in fermenter for adding yeast. I have a chiller but no tap to connect. I fill my bath with cold water to get the temp down. Better to do this or use the hot cube. Well, the hot cube you'll find a lot easier than trying to carry around a full fermenter and putting it in the bath. I have done all those methods, believe me. Or in the, you know, laundry sink and then putting ice in and do it. I've tried all that and it's so inefficient. As in it takes a long time. Oh yeah, Pacific Jade's not bad for bittering. No, there is a few. You know, I'm being... most of these big, huge bittering ones, you know, the new ones that are really strong, you know, and I'm not sort of talking about a bittering 60-minute edition. I'm talking more about late flavour and stuff like that. But yeah, you will find a cube much easier, man, and it saves just... What a cube means is at the end of the brew day, even all grain, doesn't matter where you're doing, you know, you can even do extract that way if you have to. Then you're doing full boils, which is kind of hard, but possible. What happens is you fill the cube and you close the lid on the cube and then that's your day done, except for cleaning. You don't have to worry about trying to cool it down, trying to move it around, trying to use ice, trying to change the water. You don't have to do any of that. It's just done. It's in the cube and you come back tomorrow. That's the best thing about cubing. You don't even have to touch sanitizer on a brew day. You know what I mean? There's no sanitizer used. Everything's hot side. Everything's boiled. And it's not till you get it from the cube to the fermenter you start, you know, you might sanitize your fermenter, but there's something about using cubes that, you know, they're not perfect for all beers. Beers can be adjusted, but, you know, if you can, it can make a brew day much easier. I can cut off an hour from a brew day. I can cut off, and it's not just that hour of a brew day. It's the stuff around of hoses. I've got to get hoses out and hoses in, and you know, hope the hose doesn't burst. And there's something really nice about using a cube when you can. It can make the day a lot shorter. And it's just stress-free. Because sometimes if you know you've got to chill that work down fast and something, your groundwater's hot or your chiller springs a leak or whatever, you know, and that's when you get, and it's the end of the brew day, so sometimes you're tired. You shouldn't, try not to drink too much when you're brewing. I used to, but I'm glad I don't much anymore, but not till you at least get to the boil. I try not to drink or have a beer till the boil these days. I'm nearly even the end of the boil. Because you get to that, if you're half pissed and you get to the end of the day, and then you're fucking around with chillers and hoses and this fucking water's, excuse me, water spraying over the roof, or you fill up your, okay. Because I haven't got one of these fancy breweries that everyone has set up all the time. Mine is just a garage. As soon as I finish a brew day, things get pushed to the side. The bicycles, even for this live stream, are out in the rain at the moment. You know, the two kids' bikes and my push bike and their scooters, they should be in here, but they're out in the rain. You know what I mean? This is a garage. Doesn't get a car in here much because there's too much crap in here, but it's not. I can't just come up and it's not a set up brewery. Every time I come out here to brew or to stream, things have to be moved and set up. So if you can cut off, some work during the day with a cube. Like today, I was going to brew a lager and it was going to go in a cube. Just because all it was going to have was a 60-minute edition hop, or even a 10-minute late, and it just goes straight in the cube. Don't even have to worry about it. Are you going to do Dave's bitter? The only thing I always say about Dave's bitter is if you don't like the strong flavour of Pride of Ringwood, which is quite a strong flavour, I've got two versions of the recipe. One that has a flavour addition at the end, and one that doesn't. And use the one that doesn't. If you can't find that one, let me know. But it'll still taste like VB without it. But if you use that flavour addition, it can taste cold like a warm VB. Does that make sense? You really get that Pride of Ringwood flavour. Like when a VB gets warm sometimes, and sometimes that the hop flavour, that Pride of Ringwood thing seems to get stronger. And that's sort of why I put the flavouring one in there. But I've always said, even in the video, but most people don't get to the end of the video. So if you get to the end of the video, I think I still say that if you don't want that real hot Pride of Ringwood flavour, cut out the flavour addition. You still got to add a little bit more at the 60-minute to bring the bitterness up. Because for a VB, you want it at least 30 IBUs. But yeah. Oh, if you haven't had a warm VB, you haven't lived. Fucking hell. If you haven't gone to bed with a warm VB, push it under the bed, thinking you're going to finish it before you go to sleep, and then go, oh no, fuck, the wife might see that, I'll push it under the bed, and then you wake up in the morning, oh, she's out. If you haven't done that, you haven't lived. I can't say I've done that for a long time. I can't say I've slept in the same bed as the wife for a long time. Bloody kids. We're talking about, so I've missed a few things here. Are we talking about cooling down? I've missed a few things. Hang on a sec. If you're trying to talk about cooling down a cooler, a fermenter, just a wet towel and a fan is a really good way of doing it. A fan really helps. I've missed some chat there, but anyway. Okay. Any fun, slightly more complicated styles you would suggest to try? Well, the funny thing about that, here we go, here's another one of my rants. The funny thing about complicated styles, the most complicated styles for decades when I started brewing were lagers, traditional lagers, Helles. And the reason they were complicated is because they were like 2 ingredients. And then the other bit was a cooler ferment. But if you knew that about lagers, if you had lager yeast, you had to ferment them cold, right? You knew that. So the main reason why complicated beers were complicated was because they were just 2 ingredients. They were usually 1 Pilsner malt and 1 European hop. Or a, what do I call them? That's going out of my head. What do they call European hops? Anyway, noble hop. Anyway, the funny thing is these days, a beginner gets on Facebook and goes, what should my first brew be? And the first thing 1 million people get on and say is, brew a smash beer, brew a smash beer, brew a smash beer. A smash beer is 1 hop and 1 fucking grain. Gosh, don't swear. That's what makes a beer hard to brew. Because it's really hard to balance for a beginner to get the balance between 1 grain, which will probably ferment out fairly low, and 1 hop, and get all the flavours you want and the bitterness right. There's nowhere to hide. And so for me, I'm old school and will say the hardest thing to brew is like a Helles, a lager, which is a smash beer. but everyone else is going to say that's the easiest, and that's where I clash heads. So yeah, if we want to move away from that, I will say, well, your barrel age stuff. If you want to get into sours and barrel age, the only way you're going to mimic something like really good from a brewery is by blending. So they don't just usually brew a sour and go, oh, it's going to be great. It's usually they'll blend it. They might do 2-3 batches. They might barrel age it. They might. And then at the end, they usually just don't bottle it. It's usually blended with something else, and they'll have all these people that's just their job to come in and taste and blend and get it right. So that to do at home is very hard because you don't, we're not all that skilled. And I know some people will get up and say they can do all that at home themselves, but I'm not that skilled. Yeah, I could try. I could try. Otherwise, most of them all are the same. There's not, everything's a true, and there's not many people that do the true kettle sours these days too. They use the sour yeast or whatever it is. I can't even remember what it's called. I got about 20 packets in. They kept sending me to try. I never did. The whatever, they keep trying using that sour yeast. Even the breweries, because it's just easier. Otherwise, they're all brewed the same. For me, you're complicating things once you start doing trying to do 80-degree whirlpools and that. Yeah, they're easy, but that's the most, otherwise, you do the mash. The mash is the easy part. The boil's pretty easy. Timing of hops is pretty easy if you can look at a clock, have an alarm. The chilling, as I was talking about before, that's where a cube can come in easy. So I keep missing the Twitch chat. So what's my favourite beer? Hang on, I've skipped a few. I think you had a version. Hey mate, been trying the Hop Nation pills, but keep over the shooting the recipe. The extra mash steps, yeah. The boiling and it's funny. You think for people that don't know what we're talking about, if he's doing the Hop Nation Pilsner, it's a step mash, and they do but the thing with the other thing with the Hop Nation Pils is they do a decoction, which I was going to do today. But the decoction's only between to go to flame out, so it's not as critical. It's a bit easier to do than other steps for decoction because you're not having to worry about trying to hit the next step point. But yeah, there's a couple of things. I don't know if you're doing the total steps where you're doing, starting low and you may be 61 and then 67 and things like that. And there's two things. There's the time that will get you more efficient, and those steps, you'll get more stuff out of your grain. And that's what I was going to say before. Sometimes you think because you're boiling when you are doing a decoction, maybe not so much in the Hop Nation recipe, but in other recipes, if you are doing decoction, you think you're killing half of the enzymes because you're boiling the wort. The thing is, while you're doing the boiling of that wort, and you are denaturing the enzymes or whatever in that little bit you're boiling, meanwhile the other stuff's still pumping away. The stuff that's in your mash, Tony's still pumping away, so it's there for extra time, and it's cooling down. And the cooler you get in your mash, you can go right down. I've done mashes at 61, 60 degrees. And the cooler you go, and the longer you go, the more stuff you're likely to get out of your grain. It's not always the case. It depends on your crush and other things, but and spreading it all along. It's what I try to do these days for something like that. If you're really trying to get the best out of your grain, don't be doing half-hour freaking mashes and things like that, unless you're in a rush. But, the enzymes get really excited around that 65 degree mark. What's your favourite Hammer 12 beers? Hang on. And they get really excited about that 65-degree mark. So it's really good to mash in, you know, by the time you get your grain in, be there. So you might mash in, your strike temp might be 67 or 68 degrees. You mash in and it starts at 65 degrees. And even if your plan is to mash at 61, so you're mashing nice and fine, it's really good to start at that warm temperature because everything gets excited. All the enzymes get really happy there. And then you can let the mash temp drop down and do its thing at 61, and you really get more extraction out of your grain. Who's that sticking their head out? Who's that? What are you doing? Go inside. Oh, kids. Oh, no, a Philly sour, it never matches a kettle sour. Well, you'll never, I don't know, I've never had one that's anywhere close. The favourite beer I've had this year, I did say that before, sorry, I'm a bit behind on the comments, I talk too much. Oh, that's hard. I've had some crackers and I'm just trying to think what they are. What are you doing? Oh, you made a purse. That's very nice.
You are?
Yeah, I'm live. So. No, you're not allowed to say hi. Go, quick.
Tell them I said hi.
Holly said hi. They can hear you. I don't know. I've been liking, I guess. Oh, God, I heard that many. There was a lovely red IPA I had the other day that is actually past its use-by date, or right on the edge. And it's from Cavalier Brewing, and I never really put them up for nice beers. I mean, not that they're bad beers, but put them up the top. And there was a redhead beer. And that was quite nice. It had a picture of like redhead matches on the can, but it's getting a bit old. As I said, it was nearly done. I guess the year for me, beer-wise, as different beers, has probably been Superdelic, but you got to pick your beers. And if you haven't tried Superdelic hop, the Pirate Life ones are really nice. I think I talked about this last time I was live, but tastes a little bit different than it did in my beers. You know, they obviously use it in a different way or different pH or whatever they did. But the Pirate Life Superdelic beer, if you can get that, that's a new hop. And so that, to me, that's been a nice beer to have because it's different. What else has been nice this year? Oh, there was one I had in Queensland. I can't remember the name of it. Actually, I think that was the end of last year. But then people have been raving about it this year too. It's from a small brewery in Queensland. It's an IPA, and it's a bloody cracker. Although it's probably changed by now. That's the trouble with all these craft breweries, you know. They can't always get the same hops and ingredients all the time, so they always get modified. Can't remember the name of the brewery. It's in one of my Patreon videos where I have the beer. I bought it by accident, one can, and then it was a little bit old, and I went, oh, I'll buy it anyway. And then I drank that, and I went back the next day and bought another 6-pack or 4-pack or whatever. I can't remember the name of it. But what's got me a little bit excited, I was going to do a video on it, I haven't done it yet, is one of my favourite beers, which has been tasting a bit so-so this year, I will say, is Juicy Banger from Blackman's. Mike, the wife's cream ale, yeah, that's my favourite beer. It's still, my wife's cream, I might go and grab, hang on, I'll go and grab my wife's cream ale if the keg hasn't run it. That was a terrible pour. Can I open up the door yet? It's dark in here. I can't put the light on because it shines on the top of my head and it'll blind you. Let's stop burning. I keg. I'm sorry. I know I'm way behind in the comments. I'm sorry. This is the wife's cream ale. It's a terrible pour. My font fan broke about a year ago, and so the first beer out of any keg, it pours a bit foamy because the font's warm. But it's crystal clear. Which camera am I using? This one. It's crystal clear. It's a cream ale. It's the killer cream ale that anyone that's been knowing my channel for a very, very long time, you can't really see how clear it is in a big fat wide glass like that. It's the killer cream ale I brewed all those years ago in my esky here, my 3V esky setup. It was from Jared from Heavy Riff Brewing, who was, he wasn't one of the 17 brew crew, he nearly was. No, Kelly does drink some of the. She had a beer out of it last night. I keep swearing at her though, because I brewed one batch and then she goes, I want another batch to get ready. And I go, well, you got to pay for this batch. And she didn't. I paid for the ingredients. And so now one keg's finished and she's nearly drank the second keg. And she's going to want more. And I'm going, cough up. Give us some money for ingredients. Go away, please. You're just being annoying now. What do you want rubber gloves for? You take the whole thing in there, only use two, or I'll put one over your head.
Excuse me, don't put chicken head.
All right, hang on, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we're a fair bit behind here. I've heard a similar. Vic and Shane are in a convo, and I'm not sure. Oh, cooling the fermenter. Yeah, that's a good. That's an easy way. If you've got like a tray of water, you know, like I don't know, like the things my missus puts the shoes in and slides them under the bed, although you wouldn't want it on wheels because they'll probably break. But if you have it like a tray of water and a towel over your fermenter, so it can wick up water, and then you put a fan on it. It's one of the best ways. It's like when you put a can of beer in the freezer with a wet paper towel around it. You know, that evaporation because of the fan on the wet towel it's one of the best ways to cool things down. Oh, g'day, Wild Boar. So I'm a little bit behind in the. Yeah, go to work, Mike. Cheers. You made me get the wife's cream ale, although it's not focusing on a sticker there. I haven't got the autofocus on. I had to turn it off because it was going funny. Or even you can get those silicon clothes baskets, which I keep meaning to get for my 65-litre. Anyway. Talking with my hands, must be Italian or something. No, Phantasm has been nearly impossible to get here. A few people have had it, and I've had it in beers, but I haven't bothered to experiment with it, no. Good morning from Italy. Love your Hopstone brews. Certainly a family favourite. Just for the generator. Okay, yeah, it's good. They're both good. Well, if you like a dry beer, Shane, drop it down. You can mash it right down to 60, mate. But you know, you might not want it that dry, but you can. And mash out mash out's not so important when you're wanting to ferment low. If you're wanting, to finish low. If you're wanting your beer to finish high, then mash out can be very important. If you go to all the trouble of mashing at 69 or 68 degrees, then a mash out will help, because what can happen when you're sparging or your wort's sitting in the kettle waiting to boil, if you forget to turn the elements on or whatever, wherever that wort cools down. I bit my tongue today and it's annoying me. It's bloody sore, whinging. You've got to keep that temperature all the time. So if you mash in at 61 and then you go, I'm trying to brew a stout with all this body, and then you raise it to 68, it's probably too late. It's done. There's no point. You're better off starting higher because you can't put that body back. But that body can be taken away at any time unless you've mashed out. So that's the thing. You start low, if you've mashed in and everything's at 62, but you want it at 68, by the time you get it up to 68, a lot of those enzymes have already chomped through those longer chain sugars and you can't get it back unless you add maltodextrin or, There is a new enzyme or something, Izzy something or Lizzy something, but I haven't been able to try that. Or it's a new product from Lalman. I don't think it's available for home brewers yet. Izzy Enhance, I think it's called. It's supposed to add body back somehow, but it's pretty new, I think. Which could be handy for extract brewers, depending on how expensive it is. Shane, I wouldn't say out of sight, if Phantasm. Any of those new methods, none of them change your beer to out of sight. They can all add a little bit, but don't buy the hype that buying something like a thiol yeast or a Phantasm or the hop oil or any of the different types, Incognito or Spectrum. They can all add something, but there's none of them that I would say will be a game changer. That you can add and just go, that's going to blow me away, because it's just it's 99.9% of not the case. There's no magical ingredient yet, unfortunately. Well, take it easy, Tipsies. Thanks for dropping by. I've still got. I've actually still got at least one. There's one Brewery series video I filmed a little while ago. Well, it was a stout, so it was a couple of months ago now. For winter that I haven't uploaded yet. I think it's been on my Patreon channel, The Rough Brew Day, but it's just I haven't finished it. I move on to something else, and I keep forgetting to go back. There's my Spectrum hop video that's been hanging around for a while now. My IPL videos, which now everybody, it seems everywhere on the internet's brewing what they call New Zealand Pilsners. I should have, I brewed a series, which I won't put them all out now because I've just bits and pieces everywhere that I've forgotten about. But of IPLs, which I call IPLs. I think it looks like the Americans have jumped on calling things New Zealand Pilsners, which is probably, in between. But the IPL thing is huge for me. And that's what I was talking about before. Two of my favourite beers is Juicy Banger, which I have been a bit disappointed with this year. For some reason, it hasn't been tasting quite the same. Juicy Banger and Hawkers are putting a beer out. Hawkers IPA, which is one of the good ones on my channel, if you haven't brewed that. And Juicy Banger I haven't put on my channel, but I've been brewing beers just like it. I just haven't released it in the videos. I'm doing a collaboration, and that comes out this Friday, I think. I did order a 4-pack, but that probably won't get here till next week sometime. But I'm interested in that. It'll probably be a shit fight, when your two of your best beers get together and two of the best, two great breweries. Hawkers are a great brewery, and so are Blackman's. Get together, it'll probably go and fail, but who knows? It might be the best thing as well. Any advantage pitching 2-packs of yeast? Normally, yes. Are you going to do 12 Days of Christmas this year? No, because I paid for all those and I can't afford it. And no one, any of those middleman beer companies, not one of them have ever emailed me back. I've been sending them emails for years going, I can promote it on my channel. And I've never even got a reply. And so I already hated the middleman beer sellers. And I hate them even more now because they won't even reply to emails. So I just, yeah, so I probably won't be, unfortunately. Not one of them have ever answered my emails. Like just to go, you know, email and say, oh, look at the YouTube channel, or I'll review your beer, or do it once a day. Like you can't get advertising like that. So stuff. unless I do a GoFundMe. That's a lot of work though. People don't realise how much of a that's a lot of work to do a video, you know, every day, or at least edit every day or whatever. It's the drinking sort of the easy part, but there is some days you go, fuck, I don't even, you know, I especially don't feel like drinking a pickle beer or something. But 2 packs of yeast is always good, beer drinker, unless you're brewing, you know, as mostly stated on yeast packets, you know, 1045 beers. As soon as you're reaching 1050, you don't know how your yeast has been treated, so you're always better going more than less, unless you're trying to stress the yeast on purpose. 2 packs is always better. If you can't afford it, that's fine. This one turned out fine on 1 pack of yeast with Verdant. Some yeast copes better than others. Don't be buying them cheap off eBay, you know, some cheap eBay seller or Facebook seller. Try and get a reputable, you know, find somewhere that you know treats the yeast right. You're going to be able to, it's all right to get dry yeast sent to you in the mail. I do. But, you know, you don't want it coming from Darwin on this, you know, via train, you know. As long as you know that you go to somewhere that is going, you know, is going through the yeast quick, you're getting fresh yeast, it's all going to help. Then you can do 1 pack. As soon as anything else, I prefer 2 packs. I know that's expensive, but I don't want my beer to fuck up. Hey, mate, just want to reach out and say thanks for your content. Started homebrewing a little over a year ago, and your videos help me more than anything else out there. Oh, thanks very much, Luke. Thank you. How many bottles do you have stored away at any time? I reckon I might have 1. I don't store beer anymore. I don't really brew beers to store. I know people might freak out about that, but I've done my. I'm probably due to do a. I'm due to do a big stout to put away, but I usually do 1 big one. I used to be like every 2 or 3 years, but I must say it's been a bit longer than that this time. And because I brew, you know, maybe. See, last time I accidentally did a double batch because I stuffed up one. Well, I thought I'd stuffed it up, and then I did another one, and they both turned out great anyway. And they were only 15-litre batches, but it was a 13-litre beer, a 9% beer and a 13% beer. And I'm the only one that drinks them, so... And it's really hard for me to drink a long neck of something like that. Well, it's not hard, but I often don't want to drink a long neck of 13% beer of a night or something. I'd rather have a VB, I was going to say, have a IPA or a pale ale or something. And so I gave most of them away. There's a few people in this chat that have probably had a bottle of my last brew, and that's probably, oh God, it's probably over 10 years ago now. I didn't, time has gone flying past with all that crap that's gone on. So I only bottle stouts and things and big beers, and because I drink by myself a lot, and my wife won't drink them, so they just sit in the bottle. So I wait till they get, you know, nearly done, and that's what I think I've got 1 bottle left. Then it's time to brew another batch. But yeah. I like fresh beer. 12 people send a beer for the 12 days. Oh, we could do it like that. Well, I guess we could. Yeah, see, a Belgian quad, look, yeah, it's the perfect thing to bottle. I mean, it even benefits. I've got stories about that too. I learned a lot from the science course I did in brewing, and they were. I've told this story many times too. They were interviewing a lady that was in charge of, was Orville or I don't remember exactly. There was two people they spoke to. One was at Orville and one was at one of the other famous beers that you get here that, you know, do big Belgians. And they said, we get a lot of Australians and Americans here. And they drink the beer and it doesn't taste, you know, they're used to it being, you know, old and oxidized and from traveling around the world and being old. And she goes, I don't drink the beers. I don't like them like that. I like them fresh and hoppy. And this is one of the most famous, you know, Belgian quad brewing breweries there was. And she was there going, it's weird we get all these people from around the world and they taste our beer here and it's not old and oxidized and aged. And they prefer it fresh and, you know, it's just still got a bit of hop in it. But it's just what you get used to, isn't it? So funny. But yes, I would bottle a quad myself. I wouldn't get through a keg. It'd take me years to get through a keg. Stas had the Manuka, and that was a big one too. And I overdid the smoke, and I didn't understand how strong that Manuka smoked malt was going to be. If you're ever brewing, there's a tip for anybody. If you're brewing a smoked beer and you're substituting smoked malts, don't substitute it with Gladfield Manuka malt, smoked malt. If you do, you've got to like halve the amount or something there. The Manuka smoked malt is very, very, very peaty. And it's nothing like most of the, you know, if you buy smoked malt from Europe or whatever, it's nothing like it. So they're very, very different malts. They do have another smoked malt, Gladfield, but I don't think I tried it after that Manuka. I think I stayed away. But it was so peaty. It was so peaty, but that's another reason why it sat around for a few years to mellow out a bit. Oh no, I don't buy from the Yeast platform. I don't buy from Facebook sellers. I've had a few bad experiences with Facebook seller hop guys, so I get them from my suppliers. I'll get them from Keg King or Kegland or people, not Keg King, Kegland or Grain and Grape, because I know they're pumping through the yeast. I won't buy them from the Yeast platform. And that's no, you know, if you live close to him or whatever and you know he's going through a yeast, but that's just my opinion. Charlotte says 11 to my I think I've got one bottle of that. I can't remember. That was the double batch. One ended up 9% because it was the 9% one, right? And then I wanted to add cocoa beans and coconut, and I'd soaked them in nearly a bottle of vodka because the vodka kept getting soaking up, so I kept that in the bottle. It took just about a whole bottle of vodka because it was 500 grams of cacao and 500 grams of coconut. And so the first one that I thought I stuffed up, I added too much sugar or something anyway. And that ended up about 9% or something like that. And I still bottled it anyway because I'd put all that time and effort into it. And then so I brewed another batch straight away because it was I think it was for a video. I don't even think I ended up doing the video. And then the second batch I added, so it was a 15-litre batch, but it copped a bottle of vodka, you know, the whole bottle, because the whole bottle was soaked up in the stuff. And so I estimated that beer, you know, with a bottle of vodka in it, ended up being around that 13%. And so, yeah, there was two. There was a 9% with something like that anyway. It's a long time ago now. As she said, it's probably 10 years ago, whatever. But that was the difference. One was 9 and one was 13 because one ended up with all the stuff in it with a bottle of vodka. Any adjunct you would recommend or use often for IPAs? No, not really. Sugar, maybe, or Well, some people might put oats in them these days, but both aren't really needed. I don't mind using Dex or sugar if you're trying to do like a really big, 7-8% beer, but you're trying to keep it quite dry, like quite low. I don't mind adding Dex or sugar, not much. You don't need much, 300 grams, 400 grams. But other than that, not for IPAs. I don't really need adjuncts. Keep it simple. IPAs are a simple thing. Well, they're not always simple to get right, but the ingredients, you don't need much. And every year I go by, I'm stripping them right back, and it's Pilsner malt, and there's not much else. I'm always tend to add a little bit of Munich, Vienna, if you like Vienna, prefer Vienna. I've been using chip malt lately because I bought some for some NIPAs a while back, and it's still around. So chip malt goes okay, which is just like a Carapils, but probably only using it because it's here. There's not much I put in my IPAs, man. If you're talking the hazy modern IPAs, then if you call oats and things like that, I don't know if you call them adjuncts these days. Then oats are nearly becoming, common, so in everything. So people are throwing them in everything these days, from pale ales and IPAs, but you don't really need it. Have a good one, everyone. Take it easy, Victor. Good to see you, mate. Hi, Anto. Speakeasy, Liverpool, South Australia. Everything needs to come through the mail. There's some good brew shops in South Australia, though. Is it Beer Barrel or something? Beer. My South Australian mates aren't here today. There's usually a few South Australians hanging around, but they're not here today. Earl Grey tea in your IPAs, fair enough. That gives like a real tanniny flavour, doesn't it? I have had an Earl Grey beer. I can't remember what it was or where it was. It's probably at Gabs or something. I do like Earl Grey tea. I haven't put it in my IPAs though. Oh, there's the Staz's review of one of my beers long ago. God, I'm too scared to look at the date. Oh, look, Marisota is a great malt, and it used to get a lot of talk up a long time ago. And it's still a great malt, but I don't think you need to go that far anymore. Like, what I mean by that is you don't have to buy UK malt to get Marisota anymore. Like, Gladfield do perfectly fine ale malts. There's a lot of places in Australia that do perfectly fine ale malts these days. And like, I think it's and I know it sounds weird, but I think it's that it's got a different name that makes it a lot better than other malts. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It is a great flavoured ale malt, right? It's a great flavoured ale malt, Marisota. I won't knock it ever. But that's all it is. And but I think that it has a different name. It sort of gets treated differently. Like, people don't realise that it is just an ale malt. It's not anything special. Even though it's a good flavoured ale malt. That's I'm not talking it down. I'm just saying that it's just an ale malt. There's no special process done to it. It's not anything different to any other ale malt. But it's a great malt. Do you have any tips for a brewer that likes to brew more than they can drink? Well, you can always go to smaller batches. No, that's why I've slowed down a little bit on the brewing lately, because I've slowed down the drinking a bit, and I'm the same. I end up tipping some out. Fucking get some friends. No, I don't. That's a joke. I don't have visitors here either. Like, we don't. We've got 2 kids, 12 and 8. So, it's not the reason the kids are lovely. It's the wife. People won't come home. No, but we don't. You know, once you have kids, we're. Well, I'm 52, and all our mates that are 52, you know, they have kids. You know, they don't have young kids like us. So you know, you do have that gap, and you know, and plus we moved away, so we're here, suburbs away. People won't come to Point Crook. I don't blame them. But so yeah, no. So I've got a lot of beer sitting around. I do. Some I tip out. I do. There's sometimes here when I go through pumping, you know, when I'm really enjoying brewing, especially in summer. I die off in a bit in winter because it's miserable out here, and you know, it's not fun being in the garage. But yeah, there's times I'll have 4 kegs in the fridge here and 4 kegs inside, and something fermenting here, and then I just get to the point where fuck, I got nowhere to put the beer. So yeah, I end up tipping something out. I don't. You can try trading beers, but then I'm always, because my beers are mostly hoppy beers. It's my thing. I don't like bottling them and sending them because they just you know, they're fucked. But they're fucked. So yeah, beer bow at Paul. That's good shit. I'll take it easy, Staz. Great to see you, mate. And I should probably go too. I might have one more beer. I'll try, because there's probably new people here. I'll get another one of the oat extract. And I don't know what it is today. Even like before we started, I had my oat one, and I went, oh, it's not quite carb, but I'm going, oh, the head didn't last long. So I poured a Homebrewing IPA, and that didn't last long. I don't know if it's something to do with the stormy atmosphere, or something is killing. There's more science behind this than I know about. But there's something that's killing the heads in the beers today, because even this is usually cracking a head for ages, but everything that's going in the glass today is just going. And I even got a new glass, so it's not the glasses. I reckon it's the weather. Something is affecting the heads today. Hey, Gal Goose and Carl. G'day, Carl. Second Sego. Speak easy. Shane, I've spoke to. Ned T. Yeah, need mates I move. Yeah, I know. It's terrible. Oh, I had a bloke come up from up the road, and he only moved in a month or 2 ago. Oh, probably 3 now. And another, because everywhere is becoming, you know, Pakistani or from India or something. And the whole area is now. And but they love their beer. So he came down and he goes, oh, what are you doing? I'm brewing beer. He goes, oh, I'm having a party. I want you to brew beer for me. I'm going, hang on. He goes, okay, what beer do you like? He goes, oh, lagers and IPAs. And I went, hey, you've come to the right place. But and he goes, oh, and then he come back, he dropped in again the next day, and then but it's sort of, you know, you don't know. You got to be careful inviting people around to drink, because then they're here every day, you know. And especially because every time I'm out here, I'm usually videoing, which makes it really difficult. Because you go, come on, man, shut up, or get out of the way while I'm doing a video. So then he come down again, and I said, yeah, no, I can brew it for you, but you got to give me time, man. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. And his party was in October. But I think he must have went home and looked at the price, because he was good. Oh, I'll buy the kegs, I'll buy the fridge, I'll buy that, and we'll get the beer, yeah. And I think he must have went and had a look at the price of keg, you know, buying a kegerator and the kegs and everything, and he probably pulled the pin. But yeah, so there is people around, but yeah, you gotta choose your mates in the new area. You don't know, do you? I tipped out a keg for the first time 10 years, heartbreaking. Oh, I tipped out an Irish Red and a couple of lagers. Oh, they were lagers I did for. Oh, hang on, I'll pour this beer first. This is just out of the party tap in the wrap fridge behind me. I'm on the wrong window. I can't. Oh, there. That's the extract. Oops, camera's down there. That's the oat beer. But it's not quite carb. Oh, it smells lovely though. I can smell that without even. I did overhop it. Well, not overhop it. I hopped the hell out of it, and it smells bloody lovely. Could be a cut tongue. I wonder if it is. Oh, it's swollen up like a mofo. It's a boring story. Because I'm on diabetes, I've got to use these wraps that haven't got any carbs. And they're like a soggy bloody, I don't know. They're all right, but they're not strong. So I filled it up with some meat and some lettuce and that before. And I went to eat it and it's all flopping everywhere. And I don't know, I must have put me, and then bit down and got me tongue. I've done a good one on it. Now, some today, the heads, although I don't expect this to keep on because it's not quite carb yet, but the rest of the beers were. You got a red ale you're about to ditch. Well, this is it, Carlos. This is it. And it's lovely. And I'm not lying, it's lovely. Fermented out a little bit lower than I expected. We weren't sure because Kegland weren't sure. Their beer hadn't finished fermenting by the time I put mine in their test. I went from 1061 to 1009, which makes it 6.8%. So you got to be a little bit careful. I'm stinging my tongue actually. But the aroma is outstanding. It's probably a little bit bitter, and I think I might have said that in the, or maybe not in the recipe, that, you know, a lot of people love their, when they say hazy IPAs, they don't want bitterness. I want bitterness in them. I don't care if they're hazy IPAs or not. And IPAs, different story. Yes, lighten up the bitterness a bit. But if they're just a hazy IPA like this, I want the bitter. So it's bitter. It's hoppy as. The aroma, even though it's not carb properly, is, I could smell it as soon as I poured it. And I've had a few today. Well, not too many, but I've had a couple of beers today. And when you can still smell it bursting out after you've already had like a commercial IPA and already one of these today, you know you're doing something all right. Yeah, this is good. If you want it less bitter, cut down the what did I put in? I think I put in 20 grams of each in the. I'll go through this in a video. I was supposed to today. I was going to record the taste and the end of the video, the finish of the video, but because the beer's not carb properly, I thought I'll wait another couple of days. I like it just as it is, actually. I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to drink it. Like, not that bad, but, you know, because you just get this thing in your head about extract beers sometimes. But this is lovely. I said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think anyone here, even Staz, who's now a trained taster, I think, I reckon, and I said before, I bet my 2.5 nuts on it, that he wouldn't be able to tell if I hadn't have told him that this was a extract beer. You're saying for you, what you want to have you're talking about your social life or your wife? Do you want to have a chat or what? Or did you brew the same beer or? Twang. Oh, there's no twang in this. There's the only twang in this is from hop twang. That's the only twang in this beer is bitterness and a little bit of hop burn. Well, it's not hop burn. It's bitter. Oh, there's another brewery series video. I'll get onto editing. There's another one coming out. It's a stout, but it's a summer stout. Oh, there's no extract twang in this. No, not at all. I 100% honest. There's no extract twang in this beer. Beer. There's a beer floating across the screen. I can't do it from this. I can't do it in the chat here. We should have put Staz's face up on the screen too, but he's gone now. You can still do those. Where's the other things? I don't know. Oh, do I shut the window? Hang on. Oh, there's a ghost couple of bulbies. What about... oh, that's better. I can see the chat there. Hang on. Go away. Yeah, that wasn't very exciting. I could have picked a better one than that, shouldn't I? Anyway. No rude ones because we're on YouTube. All right. Oh, that sounds terrible. What's going on there? Jesus, that sounded terrible. All right, now it's enough of that play. Yeah, so I haven't, I've got one stout, but it's a nice, really, I'm not a big stout drinker, but it's an easy drinking stout that you can drink any time of year. I must have more. What else have I got coming up? The Brewery series wise, I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. Oh, thanks for that, Shane. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Let's celebrate their first soup on the live stream. How do I do that? I don't know what that means. Thank you very much, though. Very much appreciated. Sorry, YouTube. This hasn't happened. There's something new on YouTube, and I can't quite work out. It says, let's celebrate their first soup on my live stream. But it doesn't. It says put user in timeout. That's the last thing you want to do. I don't understand. Anyway, thanks very much, mate. Thank you. Very much appreciated. It's a bit weird. I can do a love heart. No, I don't know. I don't understand. Thank you very much, though. Much appreciated. Yeah, so this is for... Back to it, hang on. This is the... the oat hazy IPA. But yeah, it's not carb. I thought it would be... I've turned the gas up today. I put it... Because I only kegged it... I don't know, what was it? Thursday, I think it was. And then I put 30 PSI on it or something. I should have went probably a little bit higher. For a little bit under 24 hours, I cut it a bit short. I wanted to have a taste. And then I've had it on what I thought was 12 PSI the last 3 days or 4 days since then. But it hasn't come up to carb yet. And that can happen though, It's got big booze in it and it's, a lot of hop in it. It's a big beer and they can take a little bit longer than, a mid-strength or a lager or something. They can take a little bit longer to... Yeah, I reckon... Well, that's what I reckon it is today, Mark. There's something with the weather, I reckon. That's what I blame today, because it's not just my beer, it's even the commercial beer I had before. And like my beers are renowned... Well, not renowned, I don't really care, but the lacing and stuff, there's something going on today. And we've got a really, like at Hale before, we've got a really unusual for Melbourne. It's unusual because we haven't had this sort of weather for a long time, and yeah, something's affected it all. No, thanks, Shane. Thank you. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. I do enjoy it though, but it doesn't pay. So when people do things like that, it's really means something. How you doing, J-Man? It has been a long time. Months or years, J-Man? Is it Saturday night drink yet? Not yet. I haven't used RO for a long time. I don't sort of need to here with the water. We're pretty bloody lucky. But when I was cleaning out, looking for something the other day, I found all these things I'd forgotten I'd ordered. And I think, oh no, is that it? Oh, I've moved it. I just found the power supply. And I've put it up somewhere. Anyway, the other thing about RO water is it just takes so long. Like for a whole brew, it takes me a day to filter enough water, you know, and I've never had a pump, and I bought, apparently I was going to order one, but the earnings from YouTube has been very thin lately, so, and I was going through my drawers, as I said, and I found this pump, and I think that's what I bought it for, because what you do is you can up the pressure going through your RO system, because doing it at home, it takes all day. All day. It's a pain. We don't have an RO system here. There used to be one in the garage, but I didn't find it and then about a month later, it was gone anyway. So we don't have them around like the US does and other places do. They just don't have them in garages here. Cup day, that's a problem. Yeah, that's me. Money I lost on the races. I asked the kids and why I don't have much money to put on. I only put $1 each way on it for the kids and asking for a number and nothing. Look, you can bottle RO water, but you got to be careful. I guess not if you're brewing, but drinking. You don't drink bottle because it's got nothing in it. It goes off easy. But I guess you know that anyway. A rainwater tank is fine, but again, you've got to be careful of your roof, what sort of roof you got, and what's coming off your roof and going into your tank. You know, birds shit in it all the time, you know, all that. If you're coming off a tiled roof, you can, you know, every time it rains here and it dries, there's all salts and things coming off the tiles that dry on the cement, and so all that ends up in your beer. But I know people that do use rainwater. You've just get what, you know, if you've got a 200-year-old house or something, you know, you got 3 million pigeons living on, you might think second of it. But if you know it's quite clean, and then you could always run that through a filter anyway, some sort of just a small. You wouldn't need like an RO filter, but just like an inline hose type filter. Oh, RO water. Well, it can go rancid because there's nothing in it. I mean, that's why they put chlorines and things in water, so you can sort of, you know, put it in a bottle and put it aside. But with RO water, if you know, it can, because there's not much in it. There's nothing to, you know, it's nothing too much to worry about. But you wouldn't store it for a long time. You know what I mean? If you're only storing it for a little while. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's all I'm saying is it depends on what, you know, there's no way in the world I would have brewed with the water tank from where I used to live, but the water tank was, you know, half rusted and it was coming off an old roof and brewing plans. Well, there's a big, and I meant to do it today and I've been talking too much, but there is a big lager video coming up and not so much a particular recipe, but more that it's, you know, it's time here to get them in. If you want to, you know, lager them for a couple of weeks, it's time to get them in. And I was going to ask here if anyone's got a favourite recipe. I know what mine are. I was going to talk about that, and if anyone's got any questions that I might not have time to answer now today, but I'll put them in the video. Oh, yeah, no, for storing for a week's fine. Yeah, that's fine. But it's the same, you know, it's not the same, I mean, you know. why you don't see no alcohol beers on tap. What's that? But again, now we're talking about two different things now. But yeah, but you just got to be careful because there's nothing in it to keep it potable, as they call it. Unless they only put chlorine to, and chloramine's in to kill us and mind control us, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, Kegland has RO water. I forgot. If you live near there. Did you play a sound, Goose? Oh, maybe I've just got the volume down. I can't hear it. I could hear it here. Oh, no sounds here, no rude ones. Yeah, so if you live near Kegland, they have free RO water. You are allowed to swear on YouTube these days. But apparently you can't do it at the start of the cast. But it's all right at the end. I don't know. G'day, Gunda. Sorry, Gunda's in the Twitch chat. But at least usually it's working, but tonight it's not working, the YouTube chat on the screen. But so for those in YouTube, there is people in Twitch. There's not many, but there's Gunda and Goose, and yeah, they're asking for records because usually on a Saturday night when I do this, I play records and all that sort of thing. I did one licorice stout and then I vowed I'd never do another one. But that was back in the extract days. Extract days. I'm drinking extract beer now. And I'd got a recipe from a place in Richmond. Can't remember the name of the place. And a little jar of licorice extract. And I think all I added was like 10 ml to the fermenter. And oh, fuck, Jesus Christ. It was like drinking licorice. And look, I don't mind flavours in beers, but the beer's still got to taste like beer. No, but I like them to be subtle, right? If you have a licorice stout, it's all right to have a licorice flavour in there, but I still want to taste the malt and the hop bitterness and all that, not just like drinking licorice. And that's what mine ended up like, and I never ever went back. And that was what I was going to do. Another thing I was going to do today, I've still got a couple of crates here of stuff that I reckon that licorice extract is still sitting in. Little John lives miles from here. And he disagrees with all my videos, so have an extract brew off. My favourite I did was a licorice. Oh, that's the same one I read before. Have an extract brew off. We could. A licorice, all sorts. Far out. Did you use the pink ones or? Like, I mean, like the ones with all the pink and the green and and the only colours I remember. Licorice all sorts had white, pink, green, and probably had other colours, but God, I haven't seen one for so many years. Use less, yeah, that's what I reckon too. I should have used like 5 mil instead of 10 mil. I just didn't think it was going to be so strong. But then that was the same shop. But and that's sort of what I was getting to before. Just because people own a brewery or own a shop doesn't mean that they know what they know what's good for everybody else. Like they just don't. My first time I used Saaz hops or Saaz hops. I can't remember what I was brewing, probably Pilsner or something, and they said, "Oh, I use 30 grams of SARS in a steep in a short boil and a steep," and I use it. And, oh my god, the beer was filthy. That was one beer I ended up tipping out. We're going back a few years now, before I moved to this house, and I didn't use SARS in a beer for years, for decades. At least a decade, anyway. At least a decade. I just couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand the thought of it. I couldn't stand the taste, the smell. And it was all just from one bad info from a shop. Are you doing extract, Carlos? If you're doing extract, look, even though you're doing extract, I don't know if you are. I don't remember what you said. Mostly. Well, firstly, people will say steep some grain, but the steeping grain is going to add minimal. You could go straight to maltodextrin, which is flavourless. But will add body. Like some people will say lactose and things, but I can taste lactose. Lactose to me too much, and it tastes like off milk. So you can add maltodextrin. The other thing you can do, which is a little bit more complicated, is, but not impossible, is like if you can get a cheap pH meter. Just a cheap one will do, because you're not going to use it all the time. It probably won't last long, but and test your pH in your fermenter, and you can adjust it. And adjusting a stout, it's probably a bit much to go into right now, but to make the pH a little bit higher will make a huge difference to give you the body and mouthfeel. I don't remember off my head, top of the head, what a pre-ferment pH should be for a stout. It'd be in the 5 point something. But if you message me later, I can go into it. But that's probably the most complicated way. But it works. The pH is really important. The other thing is your water too. Well, that leads back to the water too. So, even if you're doing extract, you can still add. Oh, it's my tongue. I can't talk properly. Even if you're still doing extract, it sounds like I'm pissed. There's no harm in adding a teaspoon of. Hang on, get the right one. Calcium chlorides. What is it? I should know that off my head too. A teaspoon of that, which will affect your pH as well, but that'll drop it. But it'll also add your chlorides to your water. That will help with that body and mouthfeel. So that's the trouble. Once you start messing with the water, then you probably should keep an eye on pH. Use your tip from back of vanilla pods and have tested vodka. Oh, no worries at all. That's a, yeah. I'd still do that, Steve, to this day. I've actually still got, I've probably actually still got that same test tube that I've topped up with vodka a few times. No, I don't have the money to go for commercial, Ben. I was like a musician. I was going to say professional musician, but I don't like to use those words. They get thrown around like too much. Professional brewer. I tried to be a famous musician for about 15, 20 years, and so I have no money. I don't have any super. I have nothing. absolutely nothing. I've never owned a car. To try and go commercial is way out of my league. I nearly did put in at the start of the craft beer craze, and I fucking should have, because I would have been up one of the early ones. I've been doing this, drinking craft beer, before the craft beer phase. But yeah, no. Then we had children, and then we had another kid accidentally, and it just it all went to. I went shit. I'd have to win lotto. And then, I know how the business is run. I've been around enough breweries. I spend a lot of time in breweries nearly every week. Again, mine would probably end up more like a pizzeria with my beers on tap rather than a brewery to make money. The breweries are going broke every day. And that's because they think they can survive off beer. And they can't, unless they're doing something sensational. So, yeah. But I'd love you. Look, of course I'd love to. But it'd save me living in slum and having no money in the bank, earning $300 a month off fucking YouTube. And I don't mean that in a bit. I love doing YouTube. That's what I do. But, yeah, it only makes about $300 a month. Patreons is what keep me going. But still, that even putting all that together wouldn't pay a week's rent. So, and I don't get a pension, because I got married. Lost my pension. So, we've got to just try and live off the wife's. No one. I'm trying to get employment, but it's really hard. So I've started volunteering once a week or once a fortnight at the zoo to try and get I'm looking at the wrong camera, to try and, even though I've got a trade and, I've worked hard before and did major events and all that, they look at your record, and I've been a stay-at-home dad for 12 years now. It's really hard. No one will even look at you. You don't even get past you don't even get to an interview stage. So, plus I'm over 50. All those things going for me. I could probably get work in a brewery, but there is none here, eh? There's none here that I can. The closest one was Two Birds. That's shut. But, yeah. Because I don't have a car, it's really hard. At least there's savings there from homebrewing and buying craft beer. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, the price of craft beer, like, I tell even my friends that own brews, and, like, I've got a lot of friends. As I said, I spend a lot of time in craft breweries, but I'm brutally honest, and I just tell them, fuck, I'm not paying $12 for a can of beer or $11 for one of my other favourite brews I go to eat sometimes. I have a hamburger. Their side of chips now is $7 on top of the hamburger. It's like, what do you... It's 20, and they're charging big for a hamburger too. $23 for a hamburger. Then they want $7 for some chips on the side. Ridiculous. And that's why these places go broke, But I love the beer, and that's what I do it for. That's what I do this for, because I love the beer. But, as I said, if that money fell into my lap, I've had a ton of people come and say, I'm going to start a brewery and I want you on side and all that sort of stuff, which is fine, but I've got to be honest and just say, look, I haven't got money to come in with you, man. I can't buy my, I can come and work. Sorry, I can't read that name. Rask. It's fuzzy on my screen somewhere. Thanks for following. I didn't get the noise. Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's a lot of money. I forgot what I was talking about. Money. The brewing part's the easy bit. That's what people always freak out. And I always say there's a lot to learn, especially, going commercial. And that's where a lot of people fuck up. They start calling themselves pro brewers, and they've done this and they've done that. And it's a whole different world. That's what I've been trained. Like I've done 2 professional brewing courses over the years. And as I said, spent a lot of time in breweries, but yeah, I'm that's out of my league. Money wise. And I'm like, I don't know if I want, if I started a brewery now, I don't know if I want to be the, you know, the head brewer. Of course, I'd advise and make recipes and things, but you can't do it all, you know. You got to have staff, or you can't. Especially in a competitive market like, you know, Melbourne or whatever. You can't be the brewer, the accountant and the cook in the kitchen. So you got to have the right people with you. But as I said, there was always the plan just before we had children to have like a little, I don't know, I guess you'd call it a cafe, but for want of a better term, near a train station somewhere, and only open, you know, Thursday to Sunday. So people getting off the train on the way home from work and come and have a beer, have a pizza. I brew the beers for it, of course. Save money doing that. Just have a few cheap, you know, pizzas and, you know, whatever. I'm just saying pizza because it's easy to say, but, you know, a couple of snacky things. It's just enough to, you know, bring in a wage. That'd be fine for me. I'll take it easy, Carlos. Yeah, anyway, I probably should go. I finished that beer already. I shouldn't pour another one because they're 7%. I've got to go and work. That's what I was about to say. I volunteer at the zoo now to try and get something on the resume that I'm doing something instead of just being a stay-at-home dad. So I try and do once a week or once a fortnight at the zoo to talk to people, to humans instead of children, and talk to the animals. I need to start my zoo YouTube channel. I'll probably get more views than a homebrew channel does. But take it easy. Thanks for hanging out. It's been great. I've talked too much. I was going to ask a bit for questions about that lager video. No, thanks for hanging around. No, I appreciate it, Shane, that you hang around. I really do. Thanks very much. Because there's no point of me sitting here by myself. It just doesn't, you know. I'll be sticking files up my nose and things. So it's a bit. All right, take it easy, everyone. Thanks you. And if you do have any questions about lagers, or you have a favourite lager recipe that you want to send me, doesn't have to be your own. It can be somebody else's. Let me know if you can. This video will be up on my channel. They're a little bit hard to find because they go into the live. I'll try and make sure I put it in a playlist so it goes on the front page, and you can go in there and comment on it. If you have any questions or favourite recipes, I keep biting my tongue, about lagers, that would be awesome, because that's one of the videos I'm going to do this week. I've got a lot of ideas, but I can always answer and take inspiration or... Inspiration. I sound like I'm lisping. Wish it's all right, but take it easy. Thanks for hanging out. It's been awesome. I'm going to bring on the bikes in now. Put the bikes back in the garage. Cheers. I'll take it easy, Daz. No, thank you. Cheers, Andrew. Take it easy. Cheers, Shane. All right, I think that's it. And their wife hasn't even yelled at the kids. I said, I'm going to go live. If you yell at the kids, they're going to hear you. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll turn off and sit out here for a little while and not tell her. Get a bit of peace and quiet. All right. Take it easy. I'll see you later. Thank you. Thank you all. No, without you guys, there's no point in doing this stuff. So thanks for the support. I've got to find out. Where do I press stop?